Hi, I'm Brian Lynch. I run the sales team at SteelEye, and today I'm talking to Andy Mahoney from FlexTrade, one of our newest and most exciting partnerships.
Hi, my name's Andy Mahoney and I'm Managing Director of FlexTrade in EMEA. I'm delighted to partner with SteelEye. I'm very happy to be here today.
Andy, your relationship with SteelEye is probably longer than mine. So maybe you could give me a little bit of a background as to how we got here and what the idea is behind the partnership.
Sure, so we generally approach partnerships in two forms. One, we proactively go out and try and find interesting third-party fintech providers that provide complementary solutions to our EMS and OMS, and that's kind of part of our open architecture approach, meaning that we see we're one part of an ecosystem and we try and always partner with the best of breed. The other potential opportunity for partnerships is when a client actually suggests that we integrate with a third party. And in this case, it was kind of both happening at the same time. So we got a mutual client that was interested in partnering or interested in using SteelEye in combination with FlexTrade. And also we found you at the same time. I think he'd won an award at the time we were looking. So we basically embarked on two fronts. It was basically a nice validation that clients were looking for a partnership, and we also found you at the same time. But maybe you could give me an introduction to what SteelEye offers and the general approach of SteelEye.
Sure, this is a great partnership because you're a data producer, right? OMS, EMS, so clients are trading in your system, you're creating data. SteelEye is a data platform, but we're a consumer, right? We consume market data, we consume communications data, we consume trading data, and our specialization is the holistic surveillance solutions that we can provide over all of that data. And so FlexTrade is a fantastic partner for us because if we can build a robust, scalable, trusted connection with you, then that means that any client in your stable who's looking for the types of services we can offer is going to be immediately enabled without a heavyweight integration implementation process. So it's an ideal partnership.
I think that was the interesting thing for us about when we saw SteelEye was that unlike traditional TCA providers who are just looking at the trade and execution details, you are truly looking at the whole setup holistically. So you're looking at the communication protocols, you're looking at the voice, the chat, and the trade and execution, because a trade doesn't happen just electronically via FIX. It happens around the scenes, and FIX is just one representation of the economics of the trade, but actually the whole transaction takes part with a human transacting with a human. And your attempt to essentially recreate that in a trade reconstruction format is exactly what I think the future holds for TCA history.
It's a really powerful view. It's one of the main reasons I joined SteelEye. I worked with SteelEye a couple of years ago in a previous life. And when Matt Smith, the CEO, first showed me the user experience and showed me how it simplified the data challenge, right? Because let's face it, anytime we talk about challenges in this space, it always comes down to data. It comes down to accessibility of data and quality of data. And FlexTrade is going to be one of the critical pillars in your client's data set, but they're going to have others. Mm-hmm. And so that ability to rationalize all of those, bring them into one platform and simplify that view is really the power of the SteelEye platform.
Yeah. I think that the next evolution for me is bringing that from a view into pulling it back into the pre-trade space. So basically for a trader being able to say what kind of trades have they done similar to this trade in the past. And again, not looking at it from a purely transactional basis of this is the order that I sent, this is the algo that I used, but also what conversations did I have around the scenes, what voice conversations, what chat conversations, really giving it, as I said, a holistic picture of how the trade executed in the past. And if we can bring that back and into the pre-trade space, that really is the next generation of trading and next generation of augmenting the trader with all the data they need and all the contextual data they need about market color, who they were talking to, what were the real life conditions of the trade when it occurred.
Well, that contextual information is actually critical. I'm hearing it more and more from compliance officers who we're speaking to, because anytime we're looking for bad actors, right? We're looking for bad actors and bad actions from either a communications or a trading or a combined perspective. And any time we throw an alert to say this might be evidence of insider trading or spoofing or front running, the immediate question is, what's the pattern of behavior prior to this, right? You can't look at these incidents in isolation. They really tell you very little. So more and more, that's exactly what we're applying, that behavioral and contextual analytics that help at the end of the day, a human being has to make these decisions. You have to give them the tools, you have to give them the transparency to help them do that. So I think it would work both in the pre-trade as well as in the post-trade analytics to have more and more of that context applied to the data.
Yeah, it's just ensuring that the data that is produced by by FlexTrade and by other components of the Steeli ecosystem, the voice communication, the chat communication, etc., is used as much as possible, whether that's for compliance teams or enriching trading decisions for the future. Compliance is obviously huge in every client that we speak to. So yeah, ensuring that we are contributing all the data we have to that platform so that they can then analyse the trades is very transparent for us. So from our perspective, we're a completely open platform. I mean, we recognise that we're one key part of an ecosystem, the trading ecosystem, but we always look at how we can integrate with third parties as seamlessly as possible. Our technology stack is extremely strong and extremely versatile. So integrating with third parties like Steeli means that our clients have a more seamless onboarding process, either with FlexTrade or with Steeli. And it means we can preemptively do work rather than wait for the client to request for it. As I mentioned, at this time, for this particular integration, it was both the client asking for it and us kind of doing our own preemptive work. But essentially it means that the time to market for clients is a lot quicker with this integration. It's purely a set of technology components that we built to make sure that if a client mutually contracts with each firm, that onboarding both systems should be as seamless as possible.
Because it is an ecosystem, right? None of us can do everything, and if we all play nicely in the ecosystem, at the end of the day, the client's going to benefit and the market's going to benefit from that.
100%. I think building that ecosystem, for years there have been many firms that have tried to do it all, and really clients typically want best of breed in each system, and we shouldn't put artificial technology barriers in front of them to prevent them from using the systems that they want. From my perspective, it's workflows. It's making sure that the trader or the user on the desk has all the tools at their disposal and doesn't have to worry about sort of the old chair swiveling between one system and another. It should all seamlessly just work. Technology barriers are not there they don't service anyone. They should be there. They should be reduced as much as possible. And there's innovations in the open architecture world and the interop world that make these things possible, and preemptive integrations like we've done make sure that these things are very easy for the user and seamless for the user.
From our perspective, I see the challenges in two buckets. One, growing regulation and fragmentation in regulations, and then growing data and fragmentation of data. And we're trying to address both of those in Steeli, right? We're trying to aggregate structured and unstructured data into a normalized format and make it presentable and accessible. And then we're also making sure that we're keeping pace with the regulations themselves and actually applying good regulatory methodologies, best practices to the data. What are the major challenges that you're solving in FlexTrade?
I would say similarly, in two buckets, the compliance angle. Obviously, it's not even an option these days. You have to ensure that your trading is fully compliant and that you're making sure that you're capturing all the data points that you need to ensure best execution. But also making sure that you are mining your historical data accurately in a way that hopefully improves your trading decisions in the future. Our world is pretty much driven by clients wanting to look at their historical information, both peer data and their own data, and try and drive their trading performance or improve their trading performance using that analysis, which I think is the pre-trade space as well. I would also add that the side of interoperability is very key for us in FlexTrade. Clients don't want to be tied into one application anymore. They want to make sure that their workflow is accurately represented seamlessly across applications. So they want to define their workflow first and application second. Which I think brings us back to our integration with Steeli, is that these things should just be transparent to the user. You shouldn't have to worry where your TCA or where your compliance is being done. The plumbing just all happens in the background.
Well, you're taking on a big challenge, right? Because I remember in our first conversation, one of the differences between you and some other firms out there is that you call yourself FlexTrade, right? And your ethos is flexibility.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to jam every client into a single homogeneous
Yep.
view of the world. And you're trying to offer that flexibility, but we still need to be able to harvest the data in a sensible, structured way to feed the workflows and to feed the compliance workflows in particular, where you do have to be a little bit more structured.
Yep.
How do you deal with that conflict?
Yeah, we do often say the clue's in the name with FlexTrade. It's a flexible system. We can do what you want. Every instance of FlexTrade is set up for the client. It's an independent architecture per client. It's very fundamental to us that every client should have their own system, and every client, if they want a workflow that's slightly different from every other client, that is okay. It doesn't have any impact on the rest of our clients if a client decides to do a certain workflow in a different way. But it's very important that we ensure that the technology stack is robust enough and abstracted away enough that we don't have to then recertify every time a new client takes on Steeleye, for example. So that normalization of data, standardization of data, making sure that the pipes coming out of the system, regardless of how we've implemented it internally, the pipes coming out, the API links, are robust and standard per client. So that way you don't need to worry about the nuances of our implementation, and we can give the client exactly what they want.
I know our integration team will be very pleased to hear that.
Yeah.
And you know, we'll need to work very closely together to make sure that stays true, because you will need to move your API from time to time.
Yep.
There will be changes, and you know, having a relationship means that you know we'll be able to communicate that in advance and make sure that clients aren't adversely impacted by those changes.
Yeah, it's not just a one-off technology spend doing this integration. It's not just you give us a spec and we write to it and we walk away. It's very much making sure that as we go forward and more clients adopt Steeleye and hopefully adopt FlexTrade as well, that we keep the APIs in line. And it's just a mutual understanding between the two firms that we want to make sure that our interfaces are kept standard and kept in a way that clients can benefit from them both at the same time.